I do want to jump to the most incredible process, your SOMA awakening breathwork meditation. I'd like to practically go through the rhythmic and the breath hold and the toning if possible. I know we're coming to the end of the show, but I just established breathing in through my nose and out through my nose. You know, that was just something that I learned over time. I've done the BOLT score, it's increased. And even my running, you know, I've been running for 25 years, 35,000 kilometers. I love it. I think it's the rhythmical breathing that really gives me just a sense of balance. But I learned to breathe in through my nose and out through my nose. And I'm going through this process now because I think this 21-day challenge it's incredible, but I'm very curious. I'm not just taking it on because I want to experience it. I really want to check it out before I just adopt the next thing. There's so many things out there. And I'm still really on the first video, which it gets my hands to tingle. It gets my brain and it just gives me this lightheadedness, this tingling. It just calms my whole system down, this rhythmic, and then your breath hold, and then is it toning, your humming, the humming aspect of it, which is so powerful. So could you take us through that practically, that those people are listening or watching, how that sort of system works?
Yeah, so this sequence is based on Nishesha Rachaka, or Nishesha Rachaka Kumbhaka, which Prakash Maharsh, you can look it up on Google, just type in Prakash Maharsh. You'll see he's got a published paper on this particular technique and how it mimics high altitude training with breath retention. So it's a combination of rhythmic breathing, which is called Bhastrika, followed by breath retention, focus on the exhale, breath retention after exhale. And what it does, okay, so let's break it down. So in Soma breath, I wanted to make a daily method that people could do. They will give them a daily dose of this intermittent hypoxia, but also a dose of rhythmic breathing. Because of what I said before, the rhythmic breathing harmonizes functions and balances your mood and nervous system and just makes you feel great. And I also wanted to bring in one of the things I'm actually got a lot of experience in myself, and what I was doing before Soma breath, which is the guided meditations and hypnotherapy, and using visualization and NLP techniques, which basically is just guided meditation, right? Guided meditation was the yogic method of hypnosis, where you would use imagery and storytelling to invoke certain effects visually in the physiology. And basically, I combined all of that into a sequence which is several minutes of rhythmic breathing, where you're breathing precisely to music that has a beat. That's why the music's important, okay? Because with rhythmic breathing, right? So some people will tell you breathe in for 5 seconds, out for 5 seconds. Now, if you count 5 seconds in your head, if you go in 2, 3, 4, 5, out 2, 3, 4, 5, for example, what happens is every time you breathe in and count 1, 2, your breath unconsciously stutters a bit. It goes, and it's like you've inhaled 5 times in a row. Now, the problem of that, okay, is that the breath is no longer smooth. And you need smooth breath, because when you breathe in an erratic way like that, where you're going in, 2, 3, 4, so because unconsciously you'll do that, like that. What happens is your blood, because it's your heart's the rhythm of your heart so intimately linked to the rhythm of your breath, your blood starts to pump in an erratic way, and you start to get fluctuations in blood flow. And this isn't good for your cardiovascular health, okay? So breath should always be smooth, regular, and consistent, okay? And then, so shouldn't be jerky, should be smooth, rhythmical. So the music
in through your nose for 2 seconds, out through your mouth. Is there a reason why it's out through your mouth and not out through your nose?
Yeah, because it's easier to keep it smooth. You can slow the exhale down much more if you're breathing out through your mouth. But you must always breathe in through your nose, because that's the filter for the air into your body. But you can also use your nose. With a bit of practice, you can just use your nose for inhale and exhale. But the music is got a rhythm to it. And I put the counting and sounds, breath sounds, into the music. So you just follow along with that, and you no longer have to count anything. You can just let the music count you, and you just breathe and make that sound to keep it smooth, or you just make it silent. It's up to you. Silent is best, obviously, but if you can keep it smooth and rhythmical and just match the way it is with the music, the rhythm is more important than depth. Depth is not at all important, as we know from the Buteyko science. It's not about the depth. The rhythm is key. So
when you stop that, what happens to your carbon dioxide? Because now you're breathing longer, it's engaging the parasympathetic nervous system, but you're blowing off more carbon dioxide.
Yes, yes. So that's why any rhythmic breathing, where you're breathing larger volumes of air than you normally would and for a longer time, where you're kind of, well, if you do our signature technique, which is 2 in, 4 out, 2 beats in, 4 beats out, because the music's 60 beats per minute. So every beat of the music is a second. In for 2, out for 4, 6 seconds for 1 breath. That's 10 breaths per minute. That's actually not hyperventilating, but what we're asking you to do is breathe slightly longer volumes than you normally would at rest. So it's a form of hyperventilation, but it's not harmful, and it's not really harmful. But what you have to follow any hyperventilation with, any kind of rhythmic breathing you do, according to pranayama and according to Buteyko, because it makes so much sense, is breath retention, because you need to do that to correct your physiology. So if you breathe out that carbon dioxide and then you hold your breath after the exhale, right? You can actually hold your breath for much longer than you normally can. So your breath retention time increases, right? From rest. And then your oxygen level, after around a minute to a minute 30, oxygen levels start to drop. And in that period is when you start to feel this glow of energy around your abdomen, base of your spine. And if you also use the mula bandha, the pelvic floor, in the rhythmic breathing part, right, you actually start to get the soma dripping from within. The soma secretes from within. And this is the internal bliss. This is the positive stress response. This is the sign that your body is getting stronger and more adapted to oxygen. It also is produced when carbon dioxide levels are higher in the body, right? So that's then all that oxygen. The reason why it's dropping is because it's coming off your red blood cells and flooding every single cell in your body, and all the blood vessels are dilating, and your mitochondria is getting exercise, right? For that period, and energy is being produced, and then again trained to become more efficient. But what's also happening is more red blood cells are produced. You produce EPO. You signals more red blood cells to produce. You then even cause vasodilation, and nitric oxide is dramatically increased as well. Nitric oxide is an antiviral, antibacterial. It has many different healing benefits. But then what happens is stem cells, if you do it for long enough and you get the oxygen levels below 90 sats, SpO2, you can even initiate wake up. That's why we call it awakening, because you wake up stem cells. Stem cells are already being stimulated in labs using low oxygen environments. Okay, very small embryonic like stem cells, which have the power like God, where they can turn into any other cell. They're called omnipotent stem cells. Now, they, I think, are what is explaining the amazing healing results we're getting with our clients. Like, I have one amazing story where a guy who has muscular dystrophy, who could not pick up his grandson, who's 3 months old, did our 21 days, which is what you're going to do. And then every day for 6 months, he did our daily dose. And that's all he did, nothing else. And then he was able to pick up his grandson. And then when he was even able to play fetch, throw a ball over his head, because he couldn't do this action. And then when he went to see the doctor did the scans. They were baffled because his muscle tissue was growing back, and they were like, this cannot be real. It didn't make sense. And we have many stories like this And our doctor, Prakash Marsh, who's been doing this since 2004, or even earlier, I think, in the Himalayas. He's on the board of advisors for us. And a lot of our breathwork training is based on a lot of his research. He has tons of incredible transformative stories in India. We're getting them on a crazy scale here, and it's incredible. But when you bring in the wisdom of Buteyko, right? Because what happens when you're not doing the technique, right? How you breathe throughout the day can actually override all of the benefits you get from that one technique. So you need healthy breathing habits. So we have the Breathwork course, which is inspired a lot from Buteyko, but is very much on the yogic wisdom of breath control and reduced breathing exercises. And with Breathwork, we go into diet, we go into exercise, we go into sleep. We give you tools for each one of those things, how to improve that. And then we give you reduced breathing exercises and rhythmic breathing exercises that trains you to have brilliant, natural rhythmic breathing habits that stays with you from when you're not doing the techniques, right? Which is so important. So that then basically works really well with the 21 days, which revolves around intermittent hypoxia. And it's that combination of those two courses and that then prepares people to go really deep on our higher yogic rituals, which are like somatic therapeutic techniques where you're doing like trance dance, you're doing ecstatic dance in like crazy ways with breath control. And then you're also doing these peak state breathwork techniques, which takes you to the state of Kevala, where you feel like you don't need to breathe at all for several minutes. And it's amazing. And people just go into transcendental states and conversations with God and the divine and all that. But in order to get to that point, you've got to be healthy enough physiologically to do that. So that's why we built our courses in a very logical way.